now, we will call the meeting to order. This is the Waverly Utilities Board meeting, and we're televised, I think, today. So welcome to the viewing audience, as well as welcome to our guests here today. So we'll start with agenda. I entertain motion second to accept the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Oh, I should also welcome Andrew Kaler as our guest trustee. Welcome. Anything you'd like to do to tell us about yourself or anything before we get started here?
Yeah, I'm Andrew Kaler. Went to Wartburg here, graduated in 10, and then became a resident again in 13. Was a big proponent of getting fiber here in town. Was happy to fill out that survey right when we got it. And so yeah, I'm happy to be a guest here and yeah, look forward to it.
Happy to have you.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, public forum. We'll open the public forum. Anybody have anything you want to bring up? Matt? All right, we will close the public forum. Consent agenda items. Consent agenda items for today's meeting are the minutes from the August 8th meeting of our board. The trade account accounts for both the electric and the communication utility, and internal control payroll. So if there is no objection to these items, they'll be adopted as presented.
I do have one question,
Okay, sure.
probably to Kelly or for the Eilers, the $500,000 expense, was that also the mean contract? We spent $500,000 for Eilers professional services, solar land purchases. Was
I
that,
think the check went to them, but that was a down payment, that was the payment for the land.
Yeah, so we had to
Oh, okay.
transfer the money to their trust to go to the selling the property.
okay, it went, the
Yeah,
land
yeah,
purchase went through?
The land purchase had to go from our funds to their trust to the seller.
Okay, that makes better
I was
sense.
gonna say, that's a pretty hefty,
It concerned me. Great, thank you very much. Move approval, Bob?
Wait, yeah, in fact, you just had that question, but if there were no objection, we'll adopt these without even. All right, they're adopted. So we'll move on to action items. The resolution 40-23, Bremer County Fairgrounds monetary request from Kurt.
Yeah, so if you recall back in March, the board of the Bremer County Fairgrounds had came and done a presentation regarding their project and kind of what it entails going forward. And at the time, the board had requested a formal proposal from the Bremer County Fair Board for future discussion and consideration. And the Fair Board has submitted a formal request for a donation of an earmark of $50,000 for the project. I put a proposal or a resolution together with two options within the resolution, and kind of leave it up to board discussion, I guess, to see which way we want to go on that.
Let's see, yeah, we'll entertain motion second to approve 40-23, option 1 or option 2, maybe or both, and we can discuss.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, discussion?
So if we did it similar to the baseball, where we just partnered and just did the infrastructure, electric poles and et cetera, what is that option? What option is that?
Well, the
Option 2.
option 2 is going to get you pretty close. So if you call it the baseball diamonds, we did the in-kind for the labor and equipment, and then we billed for the material. On the fairgrounds property or project, their total project is about $131,255. Of that, for equipment and labor would be $48,412. So you'd be in that option 2 then in the resolution.
And as a reminder, option 2 is the closest to what was done for the hospital's major building expansion. as well, isn't it, Kurt?
Yes, that is correct.
The in-kind donation on option 2 would be both labor and materials. Is that right?
Equipment, no, just labor and equipment. We would bill for all the materials, the transformers.
Oh, I have materials on this.
Yeah, I did see
Yeah.
that, so.
Okay, so it's just our labor and the use of our equipment.
Correct.
I like that much better. I mean, that is the approach that we've taken. I mean, that then kind of fits within our budget, so to speak, because we don't really budget for revenue from charging for work like this, although we do
We
then
do.
charge for work like this.
Right.
but-
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, I kind of like that option.
And that's why I included it in a resolution form. We'll strike the language if that's the board, way the board's leaning with the equipment or the material portion of it in there. But
Yeah, if we can strike the language about the materials, I'd be comfortable with it.
Yeah, I agree on the direction, I just wish it was written such that, yeah, we'll be paying for the installation and stuff, and just make, this would be our precedent,
Yeah.
rather than putting a $50,000.
So you'd be more comfortable striking like just the 50,000 out of that and then whatever the equipment and the labor comes in at? Because it's an estimated price right now.
Yeah.
We're just getting started on that
Yeah,
project.
I mean, once again, for the ball, I did not look at the ball diamond one. I mean, what did we do? How was the ball diamond one written?
That was written with the exact amount because we knew the amount
Okay.
at that
Yeah,
time.
Because it was afterwards or
The
something?
project had
Yeah.
been completed. Let me pull it real quick. So the resolution on the ball diamonds, Bob, kind of did the same thing. We had two resolutions, one for everything all in and then one for just the equipment and material. And the ball diamonds, the forgiveness on that was $17,349.
So would you be comfortable with just saying, we will provide the labor and equipment without, because it's going to be within that range?
Not to exceed $50,000.
That takes it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Emily, you okay with that? Any questions?
Yeah, I am.
Well, because it's changed so
I was gonna
much,
say,
we
do we
probably
need-
need to bring it back
I was gonna
this
say,
month.
bring it back to next month's board meeting for approval, I think, with the cleanup language in it.
Okay.
It's a little more than modifying just a couple words there, so.
Table this? We need to vote on anything?
Move the table.
Okay.
Second?
Second?
All those in favor of tabling, say aye.
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 All right, table. Resolution 41-23, selection of auditors for 2023 through 2025. Yeah,
Would you like me at the microphone?
sure.
Okay.
So, as you know, we have gone out for a request for proposal for auditors for the 2023 through the 2025 year. Our last contract ended with this past 2022 audit. I had a little bit of a difficulty getting people to quote. I think we've gone through that already. I can tell you what I've done in the past as well. But basically, we did get the quote from Ide Bailey, and that's the only quote we received. So that's what are bringing forward to you. The annual fees for the audits are $30,000 for 2023, $32,300 for 2024, and $34,800 in 2025. I also requested that they give us a quote on those single audits due to the NOVA 7 grants would require a single audit depending upon how much we spent per year.
And that is included in the?
No, that's on top of the audit.
Okay, okay. Entertain motion second to approve resolution 41-23.
Move approval.
Second?
All right, questions?
So Kelly, just stated, for the single audit, I forget, it was $900,000 per year or something like that?
725 or 750,000 per
Okay.
year of expenditures.
Okay, so we may not do all 3 years, we just,
Hopefully not.
Yes.
But we, as you know, we're going out for another NOFA grant, so
Yep.
depending upon the timing.
I mean, I just can't help it. I mean, I know there's inflation and lots of things going on, but, you know, that looked like a 16% increase over a couple of years.
What
Pretty hefty. Is it any, I mean, I know also we had trouble getting people to apply or, you know, to bid. So is that just kind of what's happening these days in the
So-
audit world?
I did talk with James Bonner, and he expressed the same, I can't believe how much it went up. Just the fact that he couldn't either get very many quotes. I know that long time ago when I was in public accounting, people did not, small firms do not want to do audits during tax time, and we're at 12/31 year end. So that's a little bit more of a problem for us. But I called people and just didn't get a response. So,
Yeah.
seems high, don't know what else to do.
so there's no way to shift our time because we have to file this audit with someone by,
So, right, we have a 12/31 year end. Generally speaking, like the financial institutions and so forth would like to have a copy of our financial statements. We also send some to the state of Iowa. This year, we were pushed out because of that IPERS information. But generally, May is when we're supposed to be finishing this. And I'm not saying that that was the whole reason. I think that I did get a hold of someone from RSM in Des Moines, and she expressed the whole COVID, people left the field, can't get help, sort of thing.
I think it's kind of what we stuck with. Okay, any other questions, discussion? Angie?
Brinkhorst,
aye.
Hanson,
Aye.
Buckingham.
Yes.
Frederick.
yes,
All right, resolution 41-23 is approved. Information items, voice of customer report, Jen, our guest.
Okay, we have SMS Marketing here with us who did our survey, so they're going to do the presentation of what they found out for
Well,
us.
thank you.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Chelsea Morrison with Strategic Marketing Services at the University of Northern Iowa. And this is our 5th time conducting this survey for you all. We started in 2015 and have been doing it every 2 years since then. So we'll just dive right in. So I'm going to start by going over the methodology of our research and then provide an overview by topic area and then go over some of the key takeaway points to put everything together.
You know, and one thing I
Sure.
just note here, you know, excellent work, and, you know, the comparative stuff is really useful, and I noticed that you circled, so I assume you'll kind of talk about some of those, but those are the ones that I'm interested in hearing a little bit more
Yeah,
about.
so the green circles are going to indicate statistically significant differences. So
Yeah,
when we ran
okay.
the analysis, those will be statistically significant from year to year. So yeah, we'll go over those as we go through. So.
And just to let everybody
yeah.
know, if you go to monitor B, you can see it online too. If you, I know we got a paper copy too.
Okay, can everybody see it on the screen? All right. So our objective again this year was similar as the past ones, to monitor customer feedback, especially related to your products and services and the customer service quality, renewable energy and future services, and just the overall perceptions of Waverly Utilities in the community. And you'll see this year we have 2023 data and we can compare it back to 2021 and 2019. And now that we've been doing it for 5 years, we're able to add in that historical average. So that really does give a good year-to-year comparison and just historically throughout the time that we've done the survey. So this year again, we did a self-completion mail survey mailed out to 2,000 randomly selected residential customer households. And then we sent an additional 500 to the younger demographic, 18 to 39-year-olds. And we had an online survey option available as well this year and had an incentive of a $100 Amazon e-gift card, a drawing for that. And new this year, we did launch a social media campaign specifically targeting those younger demographic, which has proven year to year to be a little bit more difficult to access. And that was very successful. We had 50 respondents that were provided with a choice of a $5 gift card to Ignite Nutrition or Get Roasted. So we would definitely recommend doing that again next year and maybe even boosting that level up a little bit to help get those demographics. We ended up with 399 completed surveys after we went through and took out those that had missed some of the questions or just didn't answer the demographics. And we were more critical in reviewing response, especially the age group of 60 and above, because we always get many more in that age group. So we did, again, weight the sample this year to help match the population demographics of Waverly. Because if the sample had been kept unweighted, then the results would have skewed to that higher, older demographic. And so weighting the sample really provides a better reflection for the population and kind of helps reduce the overall voice of those over the age of 60 and increases the voice of those in the 18 to 39-year-old groups.
So did you double, or what did you do?
Yeah,
What was the
I
weight?
noted that too. So the weights that we used, we had 0.51 for 60 and above, so about diminishing about half, 1.43 for 18 to 39, and 2.02 for 40 to 59. So it was both of those younger age groups that we had to boost. So again, I think those social media ads could really help next year with targeting those ages. But overall, once we weighted the sample, the demographics are very similar to the past two studies. There has been a steady increase in respondents who have lived in Waverly for 5 to 9 years. And then respondents prefer to receive news and service updates from the Waverly Utilities newsletter or by email, so very similar to the past couple of years. And almost 35% of respondents prefer to get their updates from social media. And so like I said, those green circles are statistically significant differences. So we can see that in 2023, respondents were significantly more likely to prefer updates from the website and social media as compared back to the previous years. Okay, then we'll dive into service quality. We found that the number of calls to Waverly Utilities in 2023 decreased slightly from 2021 in the areas of telecom and electric bill questions, and about 60% of respondents did not contact Waverly Utilities for any reason. But the highest percentage of calls were in reference to telecom bill questions, followed by electric bills. We can see customer service quality did decrease slightly in 2023 across all the categories. The largest decreases were reported for timely resolution, showing genuine concern, and acting professionally. But I do want to note the ratings are still very high overall, ranging from 4.05 to 4.40, and Waverly Utilities was highest rated for acting professionally, being knowledgeable, and being friendly.
Do you think that's something that we've done, or is it just, have you seen that with other customers?
Yeah, I would say you all are facing some of the similar challenges across the board with other municipal utilities. I think it's something to keep an eye on with the downward trend, but we'll see this in some of the other ratings too, but it's the 18 to 39-year-olds are providing significantly lower ratings, so I'm sure that could be for a variety of reasons. So it's something to keep an eye on, definitely.
Or not serve them?
What? Or not serve them. Yeah, definitely. There's some sort of disconnect there. I'm not sure that it fully came out in our survey of why those reasons are, but definitely something to look into.
As we go through these, I'm curious to hear from, staff here too, if you guys have ideas on what's going on.
Yeah, I guess from my workplace, I guess that generation would expect that it should be all done online. They wouldn't have to talk to anybody. They hate people.
Well, and we do have in the final report that we have some comments that people provided too, and a lot of times I think it just had to do with, well, my question wasn't answered exactly how I wanted it to be, or someone was rude to me, and so Of course, those were a small percentage of people that provided those comments, but you'll be able to kind of dig in deeper in the final report with those. Okay. Then the overall service quality satisfaction decreased slightly as well to 4.25, although it's still at a very high rating out of 5. And again, like I said, that younger demographic, the 18 to 39-year-olds, for this one reported a significantly lower level of satisfaction. For tech visits, we saw in 2023 there were less tech visits, and telecom techs continued to dominate, but this was a significant decrease from 2019. And then in 2023, overall customer service attribute means decreased significantly across nearly all of the areas, but they still remained high overall, ranging from 4.31 to 4.56. And technicians were most highly rated for being friendly and acting professionally. And again, it was that younger demographic, the 18 to 39-year-olds, that reported a significantly lower level of satisfaction.
So, I mean, you know, stopping right there,
Mm-hmm.
any thoughts you have, or Jeff, Jen, Kelly, Kurt?
I'll speak first, though, and Kelly can fill in if she likes. So I kind of been paying attention a little bit in the last probably year and a half or so, the number of, I won't solely blame it on it, but we have seen a significant uptick in postings for disconnects in the last, since the pandemic ended, or 2021, 22 timeframe. I think last time I checked with Amber, we're averaging 300 to 400 posting notifications each bill cycle. So that's 1,200 notifications we're sending out every month for people that are past due. That doesn't mean they're all getting disconnected, but in comparison prior to the COVID, we were typically right around 150 to 200 postings per cycle. So when we get to the point where customers are going to reach that disconnection point, they have some limited options on payments, and we have seen probably a higher level of hostility from customers at the front desk in the last 2 to 3 years than we've probably ever seen. So I think maybe some of that may feed into the survey results, and it's a variety of things where, you know, we're more than open to working with customers and trying to find their options for them, but sometimes those options get limited and we have to disconnect. So I do know, talking to the front staff, that and I've had to go up a couple of times. I think Angie's had it gone up a few times, and this last year especially, where we're definitely getting a lot more hostility towards staff. So I don't know if that bleeds into the survey results a little bit too.
There's probably a select few people that are really complaining, and that probably came out in the survey too. It just.
Well, there's things that we get into the financial end where, you know, if the customer exhausts their payment methods to us, then it really limits the options that we have to govern.
Am I able to?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so I guess I would be curious too if, kind of what Bob touched on, if other companies that you're working on are kind of experiencing this, since times are hard, so to speak, that, yeah, we're having problems with people already upset calling in and that sort of thing, and so then, I mean, automatically they're at a 3-star anyways for a 5-star rating here. Is it, because, yeah, we don't want to necessarily gloss over the fact if it is something that has changed here, Waverly Utilities, or if it's something that you're seeing regionally,
well, we are
globally.
right at the beginning stages of Cedar Falls Utilities, and I know you all have a good relationship with them, and typically they're fine sharing their results. So they'll be wrapping up probably in December, so it might be interesting to see, you know, what kind of changes they're experiencing as well, and if they're seeing some of those same things after, if it has to do with after the pandemic or whatever it could be. But yeah, otherwise, I think some fluctuation happens too, and we have to keep in mind these are just, you know, a few hundredths of a point. So it's good to keep an eye on the trend. It is downward trending, but there's probably a lot of variables at play there too. So Yeah, I will, once we have Cedar Falls Utilities ready, I'll see if they're willing to share that information with you all.
Do you know too, like the 18 to 39-year-old group, are more of them working from home than the other groups, or is it pretty
That
much
would be an
spread?
interesting question. We didn't ask that this year, but that might be interesting to add to the next survey to see how that might impact, especially for internet and access and those kind of things.
Well, you know, one of the things that makes me think it might go beyond, you know, going behind on their bills and so on is the service quality tech visits. I mean, that dropped significantly too. I mean, you know, still maybe it's good, but it seemed like it dropped, and so is that a sign of something, or what?
Well, that was just with our sample, so it'd be interesting to see compared, if you looked at like the total number of service visits this year compared to 2 years ago, if it's actually dropped, or if it was just the people we happened to survey
Yeah.
that didn't have visits as often.
Yeah.
Okay. So then when we take a look at the overall satisfaction, it also decreased just slightly to 4.51. We did break it out by line workers, meter techs, and telecom tech satisfaction, but those sample sizes are pretty low, so that's something to keep in mind. So next, we asked respondents to rate their level of agreement across 6 general utility attributes, and in 2023, the highest rated continued to be being a locally owned utility, having outstanding electric service reliability, and having prompt, responsive customer service. And all those ratings remained fairly steady and decreased just slightly from 2021. And the lowest rated were fairly priced telecom and electric service, which was similar to the past 2 studies. We then asked respondents to rank their top 3 most important attributes. So this question is a little bit different. So the lower the mean, or the closer that it is to 1, the more important that the attribute is. So we can see that similar to the past 2 studies, being a reliable provider and having low prices, again, ranked at the top. And this year, I thought it was interesting that respondents provided a significantly higher rating for providing energy efficiency programs compared to the past 2 years. Next, we have the overall perception of Waverly Utilities, and that remains steady at 4.32. So this can really assure you that your customers do continue to maintain a high overall perception of Waverly Utilities as an organization. But again, that 18 to 39-year-old group did provide a significantly lower level of satisfaction. Okay, so moving into internet services, we found that nearly 93% of respondents have internet service in their home, and most of primarily from Waverly Utilities, and significantly more respondents have Waverly Utility internet services in 2023 and 2021 as compared to 2019. And that the lower age groups, 18 to 39 and 40 to 59-year-olds, are significantly more likely to have Waverly Utilities as their home internet provider. Then for those who are not currently using Waverly Utilities internet, about 1/3 said that it is too expensive, but that was a significant decrease from 2021. And 23% said the internet speed is not fast enough, and that was a significant increase from the past year. So
Now, that has to be a wording issue or something else.
okay, I know, with all of the fiber and stuff added, it's.
So Jeff, I mean, that should not be right.
Yeah, so it could be the way that people read the question, or we can dig into, I'm trying to see if we had any interesting other comments, but nothing really related to that.
I don't believe we reworded it, that question.
No, we
either,
kept it the
so-
same, so,
Yeah.
yeah, it could just be an anomaly.
Then it could be
there.
what, a waiting on the, I don't know, the waiting issue, or?
Yeah, maybe related more to service than to the actual speed of the internet, yeah.
Well, that's saying 23% of what said that internet's not fast.
23% of the
People not-
42 people that are not currently using Waverly Utilities. So, okay, so that's the reason why they're not, but some of them may have never used Waverly Utilities and may just have that thought that it would be
Right.
slower than your competitors.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
So some advertising maybe help that one?
Yeah, that would be something to try. Okay.
I mean, it's also, yeah, something to think about as we look to the future and changing our speeds and, so.
We offer a gig, I don't know how much faster they want.
Right, so maybe it's just getting that message across to people that you.
I think, yeah, it'd be worthwhile to dig in to see if it's the younger group that didn't
Sure.
answer correctly or what.
Yeah, we can dig in by age group. I can pull
You know,
that
I
for
mean, it
this
can be a
question.
comment about speed versus cost too, but even that, I mean, I'm struggling to try to figure it out too. I can't quite get it.
I'm puzzled on that one.
Yeah, Matt?
I'm not supposed to interject here, but could this be an issue where your competitors are positioning, just throwing out a blanket message? It seems like that's possible. They're throwing out this, hey, we've got the highest speed, highest speed, high speed, high speed, and that's all people hear. And it shows perceptually, they have some things that are perceptually to try to bust through.
Right. That's where I say if we make some changes, we should make sure we really promote that, when we do make a change in speed or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Then moving into the satisfaction ratings, Waverly Utilities customers are significantly more satisfied across all 6 of those areas, with the top rated being knowledgeable tech support, reliability, and being responsive to problems. And Waverly Utilities especially outperforms MediaCom in price and value, ease of tech support contact, and knowledgeable tech support. Again, that 18 to 39-year-old group did report significantly lower levels of satisfaction across all of the areas except for price and value. But overall, compared to 2021, the performance remains roughly the same for Waverly Utilities. During a typical month, we found that 62% of respondents stream TV programs or movies frequently, and over 1/4 stream often or occasionally. And the 18 to 39-year-old group is significantly more likely to stream frequently. Okay, then moving into cable television services. We found that 65% of respondents have paid TV services at home. So this was a change we made this year in the survey. Instead of asking just about cable and satellite TV, we changed it to paid TV. So including those streaming TV providers like Hulu and YouTube that provide those live channels. So that was a significant increase from 2021 for those that do have the paid TV services. But the 18 to 39-year-olds are significantly less likely to have a paid TV service in comparison to the other age groups. We also found that just over half of respondents use Waverly Utilities specifically for cable satellite services, and that was a significant decrease from 2021. And we can see that the streaming TV provider new this year, about 1/3 of respondents have that. Now, Dish Network, MediaCom, and DirecTV competitor representation continues that downward trend from the past 2 studies. And we also found that the 40 to 59-year-olds and 60 and above are significantly more likely to report having Waverly Utilities as their current paid TV provider, while those 18 to 39-year-olds are significantly more likely to have the streaming TV providers.
Can you break the streaming into Waverly Utility streaming versus other streaming?
So that would be streaming TV providers wouldn't include Waverly Utilities. It would just be like Hulu and YouTube that.
Yeah, but they're probably getting our internet.
Oh, okay,
I mean,
I see what you're saying. Oh, so like cross-reference that
Yeah.
question with the internet question. Yeah, we could create like a crosstab table for you showing that. Yeah. Yeah, I'll make a note of that and I can get that sent to you. Okay. Then for those that are not currently using Waverly Utilities cable services, the top reasons are that it is too expensive or the channel lineup is insufficient. And some of those other frequently mentioned reasons mentioned preferring streaming services, just having no desire to change or not knowing it was available. And then the top channels requested were kind of all over the board, so I just highlighted a few there, including Valley Sports Midwest, Paramount, Comedy Central, those types of channels.
Jeff, what's your take on that?
Yeah, we've always had a gap with Viacom or Paramount networks. Just the cost is extremely high to carry those. If you look at Valley Sports, carrying the Cardinals requires that we put it in a second tier, and so everybody gets it, and so we end up paying a lot of money for very few people that watch that. Those programs are coming out with a direct-to-consumer model, so there's options. It's pricey. Even Marquee has a direct-to-consumer, but I think it's $20 a month. But you only probably carry it for 6 months out of the year.
Right.
But yeah, not surprising on the channel lineup.
Okay. Aggregately, we found that the main reasons that respondents chose their cable or satellite provider was for price, local ownership, or ease of use, and specifically for Waverly Utilities. Your customers reported local ownership as being the top reason, followed by having multiple services on one bill, price, and just not liking other providers. And then customers of Dish Network and DirecTV see more of the channel lineup as the top factor, and Mediacom customers continue to see price as the top factor, while the streaming TV providers, which was new this year, they selected price as the top factor. Okay, and then similar to 2021, Waverly Utilities received the highest satisfaction scores in 2023 as compared to the other providers for the areas of knowledgeable tech support, ease of tech support contact, and responsiveness to problems. And Dish Network, DirecTV, and streaming TV providers were rated higher than Waverly Utilities for channel lineup, while Dish Network and streaming TV providers rated higher on price and value. And then Mediacom and streaming TV providers rated higher on reliability of service. But it is important to note that we had small sample sizes across those categories. Okay, then over 14% of respondents discontinued cable and satellite service in the past 12 months, but less than 1/4 of those were discontinued from Waverly Utilities. 31.7% had DirecTV previously, and 30.1% had Mediacom before discontinuing. And the top reason that customers discontinued service was because it was no longer affordable, followed by that they preferred online streaming. And nearly 30% just didn't watch it enough to get their money's worth. And there was also a very large increase in those that were preferring to stream online. Okay, so we'll move into telephone services. We found that nearly 60% of respondents have cell phones only, just under 8% have a landline only, while 1/5 have both of those. We did see a slight decrease in using Waverly Utilities for phone services in 2023 compared to the past two studies. And again, I want to note there's about 15% of respondents that said that they don't have any sort of telephone services, which we think is just people misreading the question. So. Then moving into those that currently do not use Waverly Utilities for their landline, the top reason is that they have it bundled with another telecom provider, and nearly 1/4 think that it is too expensive. And some of the other reasons that were frequently mentioned included just never switching, never getting around to switching, and that it doesn't pay to switch. Okay. Then we found that 54% of respondents have a landline for emergencies and E911 service. About 42% have a landline as part of their telecom package, and just over 30% have it because it is affordable. And just under 1/4 prefer to have a landline for the directory and phone book listing. Some of the other reasons that were mentioned including having a backup for a cell phone, caption call, additional means of communication, etc. So then, as far as satisfaction goes, Waverly Utilities continue to significantly outperform CenturyLink and MediaCom across all 4 of those areas of satisfaction, with the highest rated areas being sound clarity and reliability. And from year-to-year comparisons, they slightly decreased in the areas of sound clarity and reliability, but increased in the areas of price and value and variety of features offered. And then this was our second year asking about community engagement. So on a scale of 0 to 5, nearly 90% of respondents believe that Waverly Utilities should continue engaging and supporting community activities. And that was a mean value of 3.59 out of that 5-point scale. So almost 60% of respondents reported high and significant engagement. Next, we had some questions about renewable energy and future services. So we asked a question about the level of support for Waverly Utilities continuing to pursue renewable energy sources at different pricing increases for the monthly bill. And so if the monthly bill stays the same, they had the highest level of support with a mean rating of 8.71 out of that 10-point scale. And then we can see the level of support continues to drop significantly if the monthly bill were to increase. If it increases up to 10%, then just over a third would support that at a level of 7 or higher out of 10. We asked again about climate change this year, and over half of respondents are concerned or very concerned about climate change, while 20% are not at all concerned. And it was respondents age 60 and above that were significantly more likely to be very concerned about climate change. And then we found respondents would most like to see home monitoring to be added, followed by an app to manage internet usage and stats, with the 18 to 39-year-old group more significantly likely to be interested in that app. Then new this year, we added a question about interest in electric vehicle charging stations, and nearly 3/4 of respondents do not plan to have an electric vehicle charging station at their residence, but 10% plan to have one in the next 2 to 5 years, while just 2% plan to have one in the next year, and currently about 4% have an electric vehicle charging station at their residence right now. Okay, so just kind of pulling everything together, we can see that keeping prices low continues to be very important to customers, and they perceive that telecom prices are more fair than electric prices. Waverly Utilities Internet and telephone services receive the highest satisfaction for price and value over all of competitors, while cable TV received the second highest for price and value after Dish Network. And keeping prices low is the second most important attribute for municipal utilities, followed by being a reliable provider. And so we can also see that those cable and satellite TV subscriptions are continuing to decrease, while streaming is continuing to gain popularity. But over half of respondents with paid TV have Waverly Utilities as their provider, and this is followed very closely by the streaming providers at 32%. And that younger demographic, the 18 to 39-year-olds, are significantly less likely to have paid TV service. And then as we talked about with the monthly bill increasing, there is a low level of support for renewable energy sources if the monthly bill increases. Nearly 90% would support it at a 7 or above if it stayed the same, but it continues to drop, as you can see. And then about 3/4 of respondents do not plan to have an electric vehicle charging station, so it's just a smaller percentage of households that do have one now and plan to in the future. Community engagement is very important to customers, with 90% of them wanting Waverly Utilities to continue engaging. And there is a moderate level of interest in adding those new services, the home monitoring and the app managing internet usage. So then we can see that Waverly Utilities clearly does dominate for service delivery against competitors. Customers reported the highest satisfaction for Waverly Utilities compared to competitors in 5 of the 6 of the internet attributes, 3 of the cable TV, and all 4 of the telephone attributes. And even while service quality ratings have decreased in some areas, they're increasing in some, decreasing in some as well. So it's definitely a trend to keep an eye on for the next one. But I do want to emphasize that the ratings are still very high overall at over 4 on that 5-point scale. And it will be important for you all to keep a watch on that younger demographic, the 18 to 39-year-olds that provided the significantly lower ratings. But overall, your customers continue to have a steady, high overall opinion of Waverly Utilities, with that perception rating remaining at 4.32 out of 5. So as we kind of talked before, I know a question you guys have every year is how you compare to other municipal utilities, and I would really say that a lot of the utilities we work with are experiencing some of those same challenges that you are, with the rise in streaming popularity and the decrease in telephone and cable services. So I think you can really be proud of your high ratings overall, and it's just something to watch with that downward trend there, and especially with that younger demographic. So yeah, thanks for having me here to go over the results. And do you have any other questions I can help answer?
It's kind of back to the Cedar Falls. It'd be nice to, once again, have a municipality, line in here. If you could just get all of us to sign off, hey, we can share that, and then all of us could benefit from it.
Yeah. We don't work with every municipality in the state, but we work with about 4 of them. So
Okay.
that would be interesting for you all to be able to look at all of those differences and similarities. So we'll definitely bring that up to Cedar Falls Utilities specifically and see if they're willing to share that.
It could be an aggregate of all the other ones or something like that, so.
Sure, yeah. Okay.
So Kurt, what are you gonna do with all this information?
Lots to think on.
Drives our budgets and our long-term planning, I think. Kind of coincides with the strategic plan a little bit. Kind of looked at overall that viewing of what the utilities operating is in the strategic plan, so definitely have a bit of information to digest on it.
One of the things that crosses my mind is, what does this tell us, particularly on the telecom side, about what we offer in terms of product and, services, and what changes we might make. I mean, we're always talking about cable and video and so on. What do we want to do with that? One of the things, and maybe there's, for example, and probably there's nothing to be done here, but obviously the older age group are the ones that really use the video and really value it. So, is there anything we would do to change the programming that we provide based on kind of targeting an older age group? We've probably already done a lot of that, but, just that being an example of something.
What was your survey length? Like, how long did people have to respond?
It was in the field, I believe, for 3.5 weeks.
Okay.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. All right, any other business?
Have a small meeting update if you want.
Sure.
talk about that.
We always like to talk about me.
I know you guys love talking about means, so, as we've been discussing for the last year or so, the new scheduled service M contract is up for discussion right now, and our legal has been working through a series of comments and questions back to means legal. We still are in the commentary period right now of back and forth discussions. There'll be a couple of meetings coming up here between Waverly Utilities Legal and Means Legal to address the questions and concerns that we have within the Schedule M contract. Mean is fairly adamant there's not going to be a lot of changes to the contract as written in the rough draft form that I believe you guys maybe saw back in May. Jackie, I don't know if Daryl passed that on to you. They're pretty much standing the ground. There's not going to be much movement on it, but that doesn't mean we still don't have questions addressing some comments within the contract of what does this mean specifically in a definition and things like that. So that's what the attorneys are working through right now. To give the board a sense of time frame, MENA is adamant the new Schedule M contract will be approved in their November board meeting, and then that would leave our board, the Waverly Utilities Board, your months of December, January, February, and March to make your decision on what you're going to want to do. So,
Anything you're hearing from our attorney, just kind of at a higher level, not down in the details about major concerns or not?
Nothing too major, no. More or less a lot of questions about what does this mean? What does this word mean within this paragraph? So a lot of legal conversation back and forth on that. Major concerns, things that have like flashed red on the radar. Mr. Nadel has not come across anything that is overly concerning at this point. So I think when they get into a room together and they start hashing out some of the definitions, it'll be kind of interesting to see what they come back with. But just to keep that on the board's radar, that we'll have a few months, it sounds like, to have some discussion about it. We'll have legal probably come up in December once the final contract is approved in November. And MENA is asking for all members to have their resolutions approved and sent to them by April 1st. So I'm anticipating our March board meeting will be kind of the deadline for making a decision on which direction we're going to want to go. So.
It might, if legal is going to be with us in December or whenever it is, it might be helpful to have in advance of that just his ideas, something in writing so we can kind of be prepared.
Yeah.
Which is not a treatise or anything like that either.
Mr. Nadel will be he's very good about, very meticulous in his comments of sections of the contract. I mean, that's what he's working through right now, so the board would have that well in advance of.
Just his thoughts in terms of, how this would compare to other agreements, kind of the more business aspects of it as opposed to the legal.
And that's what he's doing right now. He's laid both contracts side by side in some of the conversations I've had. So he's comparing, subparagraph section 8, comparing what new section 8 would be.
Yeah.
So I think there'll be a fairly good conversation at our board level of what may and may not change in the document itself. So I think you'll have a fairly clear picture of which way, hopefully in the end, which way we should be going with that. So
good.
So the questions that we had before is, when can we exit out? Are they still looking like at 2054 or, okay.
Yeah.
So 2054 is when we could exit out of MEAD. And then the next question would be, would we have additional liability after 2054 to get out?
And that is, it's a great question, Bob. We have had conversations already about additional liability after the 2054 retirements of coal plants and assets that we are currently invested in. And I still don't have a clear picture from me if they even know what the answer to that is right now. There's the feedback we've gotten is there's a lot of variables out there from, let's say an asset is retired, a coal plant asset's retired in 2035, just making a number, and what that might look like if there's EPA cleanup or fines and things like that. So I don't think MEAN has a clear, concise picture for that. They are setting aside designated funds as part of that fixed cost recovery. If you recall, earlier this year, conversation we had where they're starting to send those funds aside for future decommissioning cost, because that's going to be a big one on any of these assets that come down the pipe when they do retire. And it is one of the questions I think that Ehlers is really pursuing with Mean right now, that it's kind of crickets. I just don't think anybody has an answer to it. It's an important piece of the puzzle. I mean, it's really the crux of, you off-ramp at 2054, do you stay with your current Schedule Ms? And
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's all on the liability. I mean, if it's too expensive to leave, we're stuck.
yeah. There should be fun conversations. So,
There we go.
yeah.
Therein lies the problem. All right, good. Thanks for that update. Calendar, we'll be reviewing the budget over the next few months, I'm sure. Anything else?
Anything too significant other than budget discussions?
All right, move on to electric utility action items, the financials.
So the financials for July look pretty good. It's always good when I see more green than red. So the revenues were over by $299,000, better than budget. Customer revenues were under budget by $10,000. ECA increased revenues by $59,000. Miscellaneous revenue really is the outlier here. It's $308,000 over year-to-date budget due to net jobbing income, better than budget of $72,000, and miscellaneous operating income better by $239,000, and that is due to the capacity payments increasing over what we had budgeted.
Is that, the capacity payments, are those something that will continue? I mean, I know we talked a little bit in the past about, boy, you know, those might be going up. Is that $239,000 something that will continue through the rest of this year? Do we know?
So it's coming down, and so we're not going to continue with that type. And Kurt and I have had some conversation with that regarding what do we budget for 2024. And we think it might go up, but right now it's gone down. They won't decide until November. So it's...
So the capacity payment discussion keeps getting tabled at Mean. Call the capacity markets right now on the Mean side are paying about $8 a megawatt hour. We're contracted right now on our capacity with Mean at about $2 a megawatt hour. So the conversation is, well, what's that number? It's between 2 and 8, we know. Mean is a little hesitant on paying out the 8 because what if it goes back down to a quarter, you know? I don't think
Well, then they'd be in the same position we
are
are right now.
Exactly. So the Mean board at the last board meeting, again, tabled the topic until November. They're trying to come up with some methodology behind what a community would be eligible for in that capacity market. Back in the napkin type figures, I'm thinking it's probably going to be in the $4 range. So it would double from what we're at. This is the question Kelly keeps coming back with me on the budget. Is like, well, where's that going to be? And
Right.
I don't know. You know,
Right.
I know it's not going to be 8. It's probably not going to be 2. I don't see the capacity markets on the national level going anywhere but probably up. What the shortfalls in the market say as they are today. So, unfortunately, the order board meeting is after budget approval. So, we've got a dartboard in Kelly's office. We're just
I mean, you know, it's one of those where, I know these things are always difficult, but what influence can we have with Mean to say, wait a minute, you know?
The influence is you.
They've got a great deal on capacity payments.
Yeah, they are right now. So it's getting the other Mean members that have local generation in the communities to be on board with the payments as well. Some members are okay with 2. So those are the tough nuts to crack. So yeah, I don't know where the magic number lies. It's up for discussion right now.
Okay.
Kilowatt hour sales are down over last year of 2022 by 797,000. Expenses, though, are 800,000 better than year-to-date budget due to the purchase power being under by 458, distribution by 258, and general and admin by 16, depreciation by 75. We've talked about those outliers before. That brings your net income into 1.2 million better than the budget. Cash is at 11,600,000. That's a decrease of 159,000. I looked into that. Basically, Mean made their payment to us early in May, so May looked better for cash in actually June, and then they usually make it in July, so they didn't need to make a payment in July, so cash for the month went down. And there are no changes in outstanding debt.
So last time we were expecting some money back from NOFA. Did that show up in July's?
So we're going to go over NOFA. There's a little cheat sheet. So it's a couple different ways that it works, because we did get 30% of the estimate up front, and that's cash. So, and that's more of a WCU question. But when you get into it, there's different components. We receive 30% in cash up front, but then we recognize in our financial statements 60% of all costs. So that's not a cash, but it is a financial statement, and that's what's been driving that budget difference versus actual there. But we'll get into an intense discussion on NOFA with that handout that I gave you.
All right, entertain motion second to approve financials as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, financials are approved. Resolution 42-23, reimbursement resolution, Kelly.
Yes, so this is our standard resolution. We are in the process of bonding, as you know. So the monthly total is $559,766, giving us a running total of $3,552,133. And that, of course, will go into those bond discussions.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Angie?
Brookhorst.
Aye.
Hanson.
Aye.
Buckingham.
Yes.
Frederick.
Yes.
All right, resolution 42-23 is approved. Resolution 43-23, bond council engagement agreement.
So this is an engagement letter that Ehlers and Cooney would like us to sign for them to represent us for that bond that we anticipate doing in December of this year. That bond, of course, is not to exceed $4.5 million. If you read through the document, it's a $23,000 estimated flat fee and $750 of customary charges.
Entertain motion second to approve resolution 43-23.
So moved.
Second.
All right, questions? Discussion?
So this will help us pay for the new solar.
So the solar land specifically cannot be, because that's a leased property and that has to be excluded. But we have plenty, just like you saw that resolution, the reimbursement resolution, we have $3.5 million there. So what we've been doing throughout the years is paying for the capital costs as we go. So we actually, when we pulled the schedule together, had more like $6 million that qualified. So oddly enough, that land cannot qualify due to its purpose.
Okay. But it was included, I'm a little confused because it was just included in the previous one. The solar land purchase of $500,000 was just included.
In the previous one,
In
which
your
one?
previous resolution,
Yeah.
it had the land acquisition.
We had originally put the land acquisition in there, and then Ehlers and Cooney came back and said,
It was
because of
after
the
fact.
purpose.
It came back, it's a public purpose.
Okay.
Public use issue.
Okay,
Because of the
okay.
PPA.
Okay.
So,
We had wanted it.
yeah, we wanted it in, we'd done the document, Ehlers came back.
Okay. I'm sorry, so we just approved, even though we approved it, the solar can't be used because it's a lease agreement now, I understand, for the next one. So yes. Alrighty, so this is all capital, for the public, it's all capital purposes that we've already paid for, it's just that
Some
we're
of it
gonna.
paid for, some of it is anticipated to be paid for. I believe you have 18 months to pay for this in the future, so we've taken a look at the 2024 budget and even into the 2025 to see what items we would like to. And we're going to do a little bit of jiggling because with the, not being able to get the equipment timely, we're just adding items just in case.
Okay. And right now, what are you projecting for an interest rate?
So yes, that is in the budget, 5 to 5.5. 5.4 is what the amortization schedule I used, 13 years, annual debt service of $480,000.
So knowing that's interest rate, I would assume that you're saying we should only bond for what's really necessary, not go overboard, right?
So the 4.5, what you see is that prices that we've already asked for, they're going up because of, delay in shipping those items. One of the things that we took a look up, we're not, hard up for cash or anything like that, but you have to be on top of it. We have a bond that is maturing this year, so that frees up approximately that same kind of debt service. And that was part of our thinking, is that cash flow wise, to maintain what we are paying right now.
I mean, would you say we have three, what do we have accumulated with the reimbursement resolution right now? 3.5. And next year's capital budget is fairly substantial, right?
It is.
How much is that?
Yep. We have a capital budget, 2.8 million. 2,802,852.
So we've got some significant investments to be made in the future here as well. Okay, that's okay. All right, Angie.
Hanson,
Yes.
Brunkhorst,
Aye.
Frederick. Frederick,
Emily, you there?
I'm on mute, yes.
Buckingham.
Yes. All right, Resolution 43-23 is approved. Resolution 44-23, fixing the date for a meeting on the authorization of a loan agreement and issuance of not to exceed 4.5 million electric revenue capital loan notes of the City of Waverly, State of Iowa, and providing for publication of notice thereof. Kelly, I mean, it's what we just talked about, right?
Right, so now we're fixing the date and we're going to publish that. And what hit our timeline in December would be that we would have this notification and the selecting of the date at our next board meeting, which is October 10th.
Entertain motion second to approve
So moved.
44-23.
Second,
I'm sorry, Angie?
Hanson,
Yes.
Frederick,
Emily?
yes.
Brunkhorst,
Yes.
Here.
Aye.
Yes.
Buckingham.
Yes. All right, resolution 44-23 is approved. Information items, the budget for the electric utility.
Yes, so for 2024, the summary really is on page 4. I'll just hit the main highlights. The operating revenues come in at $19,827,000. The electric rate, we have put in a 3% increase for all services, and we've kept the kilowatt hour sales flat with the 2023 sales. The local diesel capacity revenues are coming in at $816. Louisa and WS4 revenues at $2.8. And operating expenses, $18,447,590. We have in here an assumption that salaries will increase at 3%. However, union wages, we're still under the contract for them, so that will increase 2.75. We have added an additional administrative person with the leaving of, do you need a copy?
I think I do. I've got 2 communication.
Yeah, can we put it online? Can we put it on?
What page is, what page?
So this is page 3. Well, no, it isn't. Page 4 is the summary. These are my assumptions.
The budget overview page? Is that what you're using? Or?
Yes. You can put up the budget
Copy, Bob,
overview.
so you can have that one.
Oh, yeah, I didn't print off.
There we go.
Want me to start over?
Yeah, go back through the Kelly.
Okay. So operating revenues come in at $19,827,000. We did include a 3% increase in rates. We assumed that the kilowatt hour sales would be flat with 2023 sales. The local diesel capacity revenues in there of $816,000. Louisa and WS4 revenues of $2.8 million. Operating expenses of $18,448,000. The assumption is that we will increase salaries 3% with a 2.75% increase for union wages as they're still under, this is their final year of the contract. We did put in an additional administrative person with us being basically down Daryl and some help that was needed with some of those other items that Kurt has taken over. So we do have one administrative person in there. I do have it 100% WMEU right now. Jeff strong-armed me. And then a general increase in expenses of 3% with health and other insurance increasing 5%. Purchase power rates including the fixed rate recovery charge and the energy charge are budgeted at a 3% increase. And of course, we put in the bond of $4.5 million. And of that $4.5 million, I'm told that about $500,000 would be cost of issuance, and it's at 5.4%, a 13-year, and the debt service of $480,000, which is comparable in debt service payments to the 2013 bond that will be paid off in December 2023. Now, this brings us to a net income of $1,383,000. Another item to note is the benefits that we would be paying to the city of Waverly. Cash transfers are $749,000, and cash, non-cash, and other items about $200,000 to bring us to about $950,000 of benefit to the city of Waverly. Any questions?
Maybe this is for Kurt, I don't know, but 3% increase for mean. Do we have any indication yet of what that will be?
They have not given us much indication. They'll have that in the November discussion, and they don't approve that until their January board meetings. So that's one of the big ones, so we're always kind of playing catch up. We're not anticipating more than 3% for mean. It might be a little less, but it's yet to be decided.
I mean, do you know, and we're also talking about a 3% increase in our rate. Do we know how that might change depending on what happens with mean?
Not necessarily, but you do have the ECA that comes into play where it kind of evens out, you know, the costs that you're incurring and the charges that you have for the customer. So that's kind of always the backdrop of we can budget what we want, but if we get too far off, ECA kind of comes in and has a 6-month rolling average.
What did you budget for ECA?
I don't budget.
Don't, so
it floats on a 6-month rolling average.
Well, yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, just something I think we'll want to obviously be well conscious of what we want to do with our own rates, depending on what happens with mean and so on.
Yeah, so right now they're both budgeted at 3%. And if we the charges for mean increase higher than the 3%, then the ECA works the other way. So,
Yeah, we're in the, we're in the off year where we don't have the cost of service study, so
Mhm.
we try to do the balance with the budget planning, what we anticipate. I mean, obviously, our costs for material goods have gone astronomically high. They're not 3%, they're double-digit increases, but we try to balance that out through scaling back projects and things of that nature. And then, looking at that ECA when it comes along with any kind of mean increases or mean costs that may increase throughout the year.
Yeah, I mean, I was just trying to kind of get at, I think what you're saying was we've budgeted for 3% increase in mean, but we haven't budgeted for an ECA. So if we did see the 3% increase from mean, we would already automatically get some boost, delayed, but some
Yeah,
boost
from the ECA.
from the ECA.
right.
Okay. Just trying to make sure I got it straight and be aware of it.
So this is the first reading. If there's any questions, concerns, or changes that you would like to be made, let me know or run it through Kurt.
All right, thank you. Department reports. Back to Kelly.
So CSR staff continue to perform the day-to-day functions of billing, collections, including setting up new accounts, closing accounts, and collection calls. We completed the September presentation of the 2024 board budget. We also completed the bad debt write-off for accounts no longer considered collectible, of which WMEU, we had a write-off of $5,437. We completed some compliance items such as project share filing, the municipal electric utility transfer replacement tax rate filing, and the EMA depository disclosure. And as well, we completed the request for proposal for the audit work. That'd be it.
All right, thank you. Jen?
In August, we reminded customers about their back-to-school energy savings tips. So it's just something that the parents can talk to their kids about, ways to save energy. They were promoted in the Waverly newspaper as well as on our social media campaigns. For both telecom and electric, there was a lot of website updates this past month, just kind of cleaning things up and changing out. It's kind of an ongoing task that I do weekly. Again, social media posts with Facebook and Instagram is always something too that we keep up with. It's a way that customers communicate with us quite a bit through Facebook, whether it's on comments or if they contact us via Messenger. It's kind of its own little job in itself. So it's just a way that our customers work with me and then I can work with the team.
So do you answer them back on Facebook and Instagram?
I do.
then?
Yeah, we have the app in Messenger. It's a business platform that comes through for us. And I mean, I even have businesses that will message that way. Again, it's kind of that where people don't necessarily want to talk in person or talk on a phone. And so they prefer to communicate that way. And they come in all hours of the day and night, and we have a prompt message that says, it's not monitored 24/7. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. But it's just kind of the wave of how people want to communicate. They just want to type it out and not have to go in or talk. So yeah, and just everyday tasks that I've been doing.
All right, thank you. Kurt?
So the cruiser, we entered the time of year where we're making the mad scramble now towards the end of construction season. Got a few projects we need to get finished up, a few projects we got finished over the summer. The big one was behind the 900 block West Bremer, behind the OP. It was an alley project the city is currently redoing. If you go up there now, the pavement's all been ripped out and new materials going in. But that entire block was converted from overhead service to underground on the primary and secondary lines. as well as fiber installation. So really kind of clean the alley up. Now, there's still poles in that alley. We basically abandoned those poles over to Mediacom, CenturyLink providers, and there's a couple, I think there's 1 or 2 street lights in that area. So that area got cleaned up and is looking good. We've got the couple of projects, the full ready mix location, we did some work, preliminary work on. And then the Taco Bell location, we talked about that last month. We had an incident out there on the new job site. They got corrected or had to get fixed. Generation staff is finished up a baseboard heating system in their plant, just replacing an old electric system over to a hydronic hot water system. We had Shermco on site in August to commission engines 13 and 14 for the voltage regulated governor control project. Both those engines are up and available for production now. And we'll be moving on, we've moved on to engines 15 and 16 in the plant. We'll be working on those for a little bit here until we move over to the West Switchgear project, which will be starting hopefully here in the next month or so. That'll probably pull us into the end of the year to getting engines in 15 and 16 finished up. We've bounced around a little bit on those projects at the substations. Capability test at the North plant in August. We did have an issue on a voltage regulator on number 7 that we do need to order and replace. Hopefully have that in by the end of the year as well. Engine 7 is capable to be ran, but we were back to the old school method of manually doing that. So we had to be called up, it's available. And then I mentioned the voltage regulator work on 15 and 16. That's underway. The only thing I did not include is we did hire a new staff person to replace a retirement coming up here next month. Mike Anderson joined our staff about 2 weeks ago now. So we were able to do some cross training for about a month and a half here with the current position that's retiring and the new person coming on board. So that's all I had.
Mike is going to replace who?
Darwin, moving up.
On the engine 7, you said a new voltage regulator's been ordered. How long's the lead time usually on those?
About 6 weeks.
Okay.
So most of that work will be done by Shermco Industries. Our staff will install it in the cabinet, but it's really some technical engineering work that we subcontract out. So we had about a 6-week lead time luckily on that particular one. So that's what
November-ish timeframe?
Yeah, that's what they tell us anyway. So I firmly, Shermco's a very good vendor that we've worked with in the past, so I believe they'll be able to deliver here next month and a half. So.
All right, thank you, Kurt. Move on to the communication utility. Action items, there's none. So we go to department reports, and Jeff.
You bet. So staff continue with fiber cutovers, installations. We've seen actually a pretty good uptick from the commercial side here recently. You know, we had a fairly good month on the residential side in August, but we've seen more comments and more requests for service on the commercial side, so that's great. We did some infrastructure work, conduit installation, fiber install into a new development area just west of Denver. It's off Arrowhead, so the developer requested our service out there, so we constructed that. We earlier in the month we submitted the NOFA 8 funding, so that's been submitted. We understand from the state they'll probably focus on some of these business intervention zones, and that's where they identified some areas that were severely underserved from a broadband standpoint. We submitted for 71 households. Of those 71, 61 are in this business intervention zone. So we'll see what happens with the grant. The award comes out about 10 days, so September 22nd is what the state has planned to announce some of the recipients. Earlier this month, we were fully active with, early in August, we were fully active with Warburg and their 10 gigabit service, so I think they're happy, satisfied with that. Continue to work with CFU on the ABR service, adaptive bit rate, so a different signal type that we'll get some better quality on. Staff of them updated a lot of the ONTs, so they always have a a constant update. You know, you kind of think your iPhone or Samsung phone come out with updates monthly, sometimes more often. So we try to keep those up on a quarterly basis, if not sooner. We did have a damage, so a contractor damaged some fiber going down to Cedar Falls on August 17th, and so that impacted us. Our video and phone failed over as we'd expect. Unfortunately, internet was degraded for a while. Actually required a reboot of the router, which is something we typically don't, we don't think of them as Windows servers. But that was the fix. We've had other brief outages, so it's high construction season between here and Cedar Falls, unfortunately. But we've seen a couple other minor outages, and the failover worked successfully. But no way near the duration that the one that occurred on the 17th. So temperatures are great outside right now, but in August they were pretty toasty, so we got our umbrellas out, and we watched the temperature of some of the cabinets outside because we have some electronics there. Fortunately, with those umbrellas and opening cabinets, it brings the temperature down dramatically.
What's the max on those cabinets?
It's kind of funny because the listing, it doesn't give you a temperature on some of the readings. It says fine, warm, hot, or too hot. And I don't know what would be after that, but it would probably just fail. But I think it's listed about 160 Celsius on the top end. So we really don't, on the cold side, it doesn't matter a whole lot, but 160 is pretty toasty.
What are you going to do long-term to mitigate that?
Good question. We're building some huts and we have that in 2025 budget.
Okay.
I know, at South Load, and we're looking at some huts to put those inside that'll be conditioned environment.
Great.
So, yeah, it was probably a fine idea 7, 8 years ago, but we'd like to see them inside.
Yep.
Staff attended the IPTV owners meeting, so the biggest news there is that Waterloo will be joining the IPTV 2080 agreement, so they're coming on board. They'll have some startup time, but they'll be the major percentage owner, if you will, with all the utilities. Retrans negotiations came up because that's a pretty big topic coming up at the end of the year, and we'll see how that goes. We did complete the broadband data collection survey, annual survey by the FCC that wants to see our coverage map, total number of phone customers and broadband customers. So hopefully we get another year before we have to do that. But our map really didn't change from last year going into next year. With some of the NOFA stuff, our map will change dramatically. Any questions?
Thank you, Jeff. Kelly?
So the CSR staff continue to perform the day-to-day functions of billing, collections, troubleshooting service issues, processing in office reconnects, disconnects, and keeping the installation schedule full. We completed the September presentation of the 2024 budget. We also had a debt write-off for WCU as well. That came to $1,927. We had some compliance items that we completed, the SA 1-2 statement of accounts and the TRS fund filing. And of course, we completed the request for proposal for the audit work.
The September telecom campaign is the whole home Wi-Fi. Again, we continue to grow in this program. It's a good revenue point for us, so we're hitting home again with that in the newspaper, the radio, and on social media. A couple things that I didn't kind of fell in the cross of getting this done, but we're also working on a postcard that is going out soon, probably next week, to those electric customers who do not have our internet services. So we're scrubbing the mailing list right now. It's always, sometimes it might cross over where one signs up and they're on that list. But it's about around 700 customers, and this is just residential, that we want to try to target to get them to switch to our internet services. So we're starting with a 3 mailing campaign that will be going out, and as a incentive, we offer free installation. So it can be up to $100 if they don't have any of our telecom services, or say they're just a video customer and they want to add internet, then we would have a $35 like service upgrade charge that we would waive. So either way, there's some benefit there for them. We cut this off December 15th, so they'll have a little bit of time to think about it. And like I said, this is the first of 3 mailings that will be targeting approximately 700 households. And just, again, social media, working with that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we are coming to the time for closed session, so thank Matt. Andrew, we have to ask you to leave.
Gotta kick me out here.
Do you want this back?
No, that's right.
Thanks for attending.
Yeah.
And we will see you next month.
See you next month.
Yeah.